Good morning, everybody. It's Dave with Alaskan Homesteading. Today I've got something a little different for you. I am doing a food video. Behind me, you'll see a set of ingredients. I am making a product called kvass. It's a fermented beverage that originated in northeastern Europe, at least according to Wikipedia. I haven't done a ton of research on it, but basically it's typically done with a mix of rye bread, rye flour, yeast, maybe some berries or other things like that. In this case, we're doing a sourdough-based kvass, and we have some stale sourdough bread, we have some sourdough starter that I've been cultivating for a while, and a handful of other ingredients. The basic process for this is to put these ingredients together, put them in a jar, and let them sit and ferment for a little bit. So we'll do this video over the course of a few days here while we make the product, ferment it, and then sample it. We'll go ahead and get started. Got my recipe in hand. This came from Mother Earth News, and we've made this recipe before. It turned out pretty nice, and so figured we'd just go ahead and try it again. The recipe calls for a cup of sugar, a cup of water, plus more as needed, a cup of stale sourdough bread cubed, we'll cube that up in a second here, teaspoon of molasses, a tablespoon of sourdough starter or another culture starter. They mark that as optional. The last time we made this, we didn't use a starter culture, so this time I'm going to do both. So we're going to do one jar with the sourdough starter and one jar without, and we'll just try that and compare and contrast and see how they differ. First step, dissolve the sugar in a cup of water. So we'll just go ahead and pour that in and get that mixing up and dissolved. Set that aside for the moment. And get our bread cubed up here. And this doesn't have to be anything too precise. You know, it's just chunks of bread. And this is just some commercial sourdough that we got at the store. It's nothing that we made here. I've been having a hard time really keeping a sourdough starter going. This one is a starter that I picked up at a hotel restaurant as we drove through Canada a couple of years ago. And I've kept it kind of alive and going in the back of the fridge, you know, take it out every once in a while, wake it up, you know, feed it. Over the last couple of weeks here, I've really managed to get it getting pretty active. I don't know if you can see in here, but we've got, you know, some decent bubbles going. It's nice and thick, and you know, it's got a nice hollow sound to it. There's lots of trapped bubbles in there. All right, so we've got our cup of cubed sourdough. We have a jar marked, and this one's marked with starter, so this will be the one that we do using the starter. And then I'll cut this guy up. Have to make another cup of sugar water. We've got our second cup of sugar water. And now it wants a teaspoon of molasses. Add a little bit more for good measure because some of that always sticks to the measuring spoon. So we've got our two jars there, and then it wants a tablespoon of sourdough starter or culture starter, optional. So I've got my starter. I'm only going to add it to this one, and we'll just see how that does. As I mentioned, this starter has been nice and active, so I am really looking forward to checking that out. So it wants 1 inch of headspace, so we're going to fill both of these jars up until right kind of at the bottom of the threads here. This will be about your inch of headspace right beneath the ring, right the bottom of the threads. All right, there we go, just about our inch mark there. And same over here. The next step, we'll seal up the jars and leave it to ferment. This says 4 to 8 days or until tart. Now you can experiment with different fermenting durations and all kinds of different things, but we're just gonna follow this direction here and see how it goes. Anytime you're fermenting stuff at home, this is key. Be sure to check the jar every day and burp it. Just open the lid a little bit, twist it off so that any accumulated gases can escape, because otherwise your jars can rupture and that's a mess. All right, so we have our 2 jars here. This one has the sourdough starter mixed in. This one does not. I'll call this the plain one. We'll set these aside in the pantry in the dark for 24 hours and we'll check back in. As you can see, this is a super simple recipe. It's not a lot of ingredients. It really is just the sourdough, some sugar, molasses. You could substitute honey, some water. It's really quite easy to put together. At any rate, we'll check back again in another day or so to find out how it's going, and we'll be back just like that. And just like that, it's a new day, and we are back to check on our kvass. I have pulled it out of the pantry, and we have our 2 jars here. We have the one with starter in it, and the plain one with no starter. And what I want to do is burp the jars here, and we'll see if there's any gases accumulating. I'm just going to hold it next to the mic here, and hopefully if there's any little hiss, you can hear it. No, nothing from that one. And from the starter jar, let's see. Nope, no buildup there either. At any rate, it's just one day, so we'll check back again tomorrow, and we'll be back just like that. All right, we're back. It is a couple of days later. I skipped a day so I could really give this some time to ferment a bit. And we're gonna check and see if anything has built up. Let's go ahead and try and listen and see if there's a little hiss when it opens up. Nope, no hiss. However, you can't smell it through the camera, but smells pretty good. It is bubbling a bit. So we are getting some fermentation activity in there in the bottle. I'll just stir that bread back in and see how that goes. So yeah, we've got some decent bubbles forming on the top, so there's definitely some good fermentation happening. That's on the version with the starter. And now let's check the non-starter version. Nope, no little hiss or anything on that either. This one, again, you can kind of just see the darker color because the molasses shows through more than the starter, because there's no starter in this one. And not as bubbly, but there is a little bit of bubbling. So some activity in there as well. All right, well, we'll check back again in another couple of days. And just like that, we're back again. Today's day 8 of this kvass making process. We started on the 11th, it is now the 19th, and today I am going to sample the product as it is, strain it out, add some sugar, test the sugar level, and bottle it. And then we'll wait. We'll do a follow-up video after that, because I think we're gonna let it sit and hopefully ferment a little more in the bottle for maybe another couple of weeks. Anyway, let's get started here. So I've got the 2 versions, again, starter, non-starter. We're going to start by just taking a sample of this one that didn't have the starter in it, just to get a sense of the flavor of it. Well, it sort of tastes like the kvass that I remember. It doesn't taste particularly fizzy or anything. There is a mild sweetness to it, and I guess a little bit of what I'd call like an earthy kind of a flavor. So we'll set that aside, and we'll try this one that used the starter. And again, this is using a starter sourdough culture that I acquired from a restaurant in Canada. So this one definitely smells more strongly of yeast and sourdough starter. Tangy, tart, a little bit of a pucker factor, not very sweet. So I think this will be interesting because, again, we haven't made this kind before with the starter culture. So what I want to do here is take these and strain them, and we'll add some sugar and see how they taste with a little bit of sugar in them. And we'll bottle both with and without sugar. So we'll have 4 samples. We'll have the plain with sugar and without, and we'll have the starter version, again with sugar and without, so that we can compare and contrast in a subsequent follow-up. There's the product. This is the plain one. We'll strain this out. Recover some of our product from this bread. Squeeze that out, acts like a sponge. I'm going to put about a cup in each bottle. Those are pint bottles, but we'll make do with what we have here. It's just under a cup. And this will be the plain, no sugar. The other thing I want to do is make some measurements. I've got a refractometer that'll allow us to measure the BRIX level of the product. So we've got our little dropper, refractometer. We'll take a sample, measure it, and I'll try to capture what you see through the refractometer on another camera and insert that here so that you can see what it is that I'm looking at. So all you need is just sort of a drop or two on here. And you'll see it spreads out underneath this little window here. Light comes in through here and it shows a measurement inside the window. And this is showing about 8%. Yeah, BRIX is 8% on this. So I've got a sheet to keep track. Starter, no starter, sugar, no sugar. And so this is the no starter, no sugar. And now what I'd like to do is mix some sugar into this remaining amount. Out of a hat, I've picked the amount 2 teaspoons to try and add to this amount of liquid here. That's just over a cup. So we'll stir that up, dissolve it, sample it a little bit, see how it tastes, and decide if we want any more. With some other products that we have bottled here, we found that you needed to add a little bit more sugar, make it a little sweeter than you thought you wanted it before bottling it, because the yeast was going to consume quite a lot of the sugar on the way. How do we do dissolving that? too bad. Let's rinse that out and sample again. Still a little mildly sweet, so I think I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/3 teaspoon to this one. So that'll be a total of a tablespoon of sugar for this cup of liquid, which sounds like a lot, but it doesn't taste that sweet to me. All right, after some consultation, we're going to go ahead and just make this a full 2 tablespoons per cup. It's not that sweet, and if we want the yeast to feast, then we need to provide some food at the table. So go ahead and add another 3 teaspoons. And mix that in. And we'll just see how that goes. Sample. Okay, that's quite a bit sweeter. All right, so we're going to go ahead and bottle that one after we test its BRIX level. A couple of drops on here. I'll look through, and we are at now about, it's sort of between 13 and 14%. No starter with sugar. 14%. Now that we've got that all sugared up, time to bottle it. So that's our non-starter with sugar and our non-starter no sugar. These are ready to get put into cold storage in the cellar to ferment for a little while. All right, now it is time to strain out the starter version. And before we do that, I'm just going to stir this up a bit, get everything kind of incorporated. Make sure all our goodness is mixed in there. There we go. So we'll strain that out and repeat the procedure. This bread in the starter one definitely broke down a lot more. It's kind of turned into really mush compared to the other one. I guess maybe that yeast activity did more in this one. All right, so there's our, just about half a quart of product, and I am going to divide this up, bottle about half of it plain, and then bottle about half of it with a couple of tablespoons of sugar. All right, the next step here, I'm going to do the same. We'll get a measurement of the starter version with no sugar, measure its BRIX level. Couple of drops of liquid. And we'll look through our refractometer. This one is right at 6%. It's just a little bit above that 5 mark. The starter version with no sugar, I'm going to call that 6%. Starter, no sugar bottle. That guy is ready to put away. Now we will mix some sugar into the remaining product. So we went with 2 tablespoons, or in this case, 6 teaspoons. We'll do the same. One thing that's a little bit notable for me here is that I'm not seeing any kind of immediate reaction to the addition of sugar into this liquid with the culture. Sometimes you might see a little bit of a kind of an initial fizz, but haven't seen that in this case. Give that a moment to dissolve some more, stir it some more. Time for another sample and BRIX measurement. And this comes in at 12%. Okay. After our fermentation period, we'll remeasure the BRIX percent and see what's happened during that cold storage and fermentation process. So we've got our starting numbers here. Starter with sugar, 12%. Starter with no sugar, 6%. No starter with sugar, 14%. No starter, no sugar, 8%. Now that this is all mixed up and has the sugar added, we'll go ahead and bottle it too. All right, so we're all bottled up here, ready to put these into storage. I've got the initial measurements, and we can let these sit and ferment for a couple of weeks. Thanks so much for joining us on this kvass making process. We haven't done a lot of food videos on this channel, but sometimes it's good to try new things. So I hope you are enjoying this content. If you are, go ahead and hit that thumbs up, let us know. Subscribe if you want to see more of it, especially if you want to get that follow-up on the final sugar levels and the sampling at the end. And we'll see you in the next video.